President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet nominees, they began the first of their Senate confirmation hearings today. The first hearing is one of the more controversial ones. Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, Trump's pick for Attorney General. Protesters wearing white Klan-style hoods disrupted the first confirmation hearing of the new Trump administration before it had even started. Senator Jeff Sessions for Attorney General is one of President-elect Donald Trump's more controversial choices.
So help you God.
Again and again, protesters were removed over the course of the hearing. 31 years ago, Sessions was rejected for a federal judgeship over allegations that he made racist remarks. Sessions has long denied those charges. It did so again today.
I abhor the Klan and what it represents and its hateful ideology.
Senator Susan Collins, testifying on his behalf, said he distinguished himself prosecuting a Klan member.
These are not the actions of an individual who is motivated by racial animus.
And Ranking Democrat Dianne Feinstein expressed another concern.
And this job requires service to the people and the law, not to the president.
Senator Sessions addressed those criticisms.
Will you be able to stand up and say no to the President of the United States?
I understand the responsibility of the Attorney General, and I will do so.
But at the same moment that Senator Sessions was testifying,
I am ready for this job.
Protesters were being hauled away from his Senate office. And some substance also came out of the hearing. Sessions said that he would respect Roe v. Wade as well as the ruling legalizing same-sex marriage. And he's against banning Muslims from entering the country as a whole blanket statement. He also said he'd recuse himself from any investigations involving Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, that some House members have promised to continue to pursue. And he will not be a, quote, rubber stamp for one Donald Trump. Okay, Dominic, tomorrow we're going to hear from some quote-unquote witnesses. Cory Booker will be testifying. Leadership of the NAACP will be testifying. Among the things that they say his record is not good on has been suppressing votes, voting rights, etc. What he said 31 years ago, they say he can say all he wants that he was taken out of context. There was a reason he was passed up for a federal judgeship. This guy was extreme, and he's not going to look out for all Americans. I think he's getting through. But do you think he's qualified and he should be the Attorney General?
It's a tough question. If I'm pressed to answer that one, I would say no, based on his past. But the fact of the matter is, your assessment is correct. He's going to make it through. The Republicans have the votes. The Democrats do not. They can't stop him. All they can do is window dress at this point and give him a little bit of a hard time. He was also accused, Mr. Sessions, of being the lead prosecutor on a couple of voter suppression cases where the attorneys that did the work said he had absolutely nothing to do with it.
And he put that on his application.
That's right. So we're looking at him trying to redefine himself, but he is the next Attorney General of the United States.
You know, I don't like his policy positions, and based on that, I would hope he would not become Attorney General, but I'm not sure if he's not qualified. I think he's qualified enough. He's a former prosecutor. He's been a United States Senator. He speaks the language of Washington. Like, I don't think there's anything particularly disqualifying about his resume. I think it's the positions that he takes that people are going to find somewhat abhorrent, and of course millions of people will not.
I don't disagree with you. The one thing I would say is what was interesting, in fact, it was Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut who was doing this in the question. Anybody who thinks this is just stuff that happened in the 80s or whatever, in the last couple of years, who he's been recognized by, honored by, who he's commented of, there are some really extreme voices in there. And you have people worried about some of the blanket statements he said about an entire faith, or about people who, you know, talk that we got to get back to the European Americans and what that means, and some of the loaded language and all the rest. There's a legitimate question if he'll look at all Americans equally, although I haven't heard, I thought, any major disqualifiers that would say he shouldn't have the job. And one of the things, Scott, that jumped out at me is, if he wasn't a U.S. Senator, if he was an Attorney General from some other state, or if he was fill in the blank here, but he was not a colleague, man, I think they would have treated him differently today.
No, I think you're right, and that's why it's going to be interesting to listen to Cory Booker tomorrow, because he's going to have to come out against a fellow senator. But on the other hand, I think people change. Okay, being a senator and having a constituency is different than being an attorney general. And as I think Andrew properly points out, he has done that in his state. I happen to believe him. I want to believe him that in coming at this job, he comes at it with a different perspective than being a senator with a certain constituency, and that those things he said in the past are past, and he will represent all the people. Now, having said that, we have a president-elect who we don't know what to do with when he says something. And I'm just saying, he raised his hands and swore to tell the truth, and he said he will do those things, and that he will stand up to President-elect Trump if he needs to. And I think those are good things.
However, we also heard words on the campaign trail after Trump famously was caught on that TMZ tape saying that he'd grab a woman by her private parts. At the time, Sessions said, I don't think that qualifies as sexual assault. When asked today, he said, yes, it would. He also, Senator Durbin said, you worked with me on, it used to be if you had the same amount of crack and the same amount of coke, right, you'd get 100 times, in effect, penalized worse if it was crack rather than cocaine. For some bizarre reason in the gym, that he talked him into saying it should be 18 times worse, not 100 for crack than coke. I still think that's ridiculous, but anyway. But when it came time to moving on, even though other Republicans went along with Durbin to try and get it done, Sessions wouldn't go there because he said there's thousands of people still that were convicted under these old laws. We should get them resentenced under what we all agreed to. And he wouldn't do it. Just like he wouldn't do certain things for DREAM Acts and stuff like that. So the words and the deeds we'll see, but I think in the end it's moot. I think he's going to be confirmed. I thought he acquitted himself pretty well today. I think there's some legitimate questions, but I just wonder with Trump, what you say versus what you'll do, how much. And you don't want that from an attorney general. You want the attorney general to be willing to buck his or her boss.
Richard,
I'm not sure if you get that.
Make this quick point. I respect my colleagues wanting to give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of serving as Attorney General of the United States, but see it from where I see it.
Sure.
In terms of, as an African American, he is on record as doing and saying some despicable things, and this is the man with the final say on federal civil rights violation cases. Would you want to put your fate in the hands of someone like that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good point, but he also, when he talked about Ku Klux Klan, I mean, he was definitive about it.
Right, it's political posturing now.
Well,
It's
you know
convenient
what I think, and listen, Susan Collins, whatever you think, I respect the senator from Maine, right? And she went out to say, to vouch for him, whatever that's worth. And he did make it clear today. He's going to have a harder time actually going against what he said because he was so definitive at the top. But I hear you. I do hear you, Dom, and I think it's legitimate. All right, coming up next. Tonight, in less than 2 hours, President Obama will deliver his farewell address just a few hours, I should say, from his old town in Chicago. We're going to preview what he's expected to say and also take a look back at his legacy.